Yubai, who was reborn in Douluo Continent, found that this world seemed to be different from what he remembered. Who can tell me, what is the heavenly way list in the past and present? What? After the disclosure of the heavenly way list in the past and present life, the target can immediately obtain all the knowledge and experience from the past life. What? If the exposed target can cultivate to level 70 in this life and use the martial soul true body alone for the first time, they will also gain a stack of previous life cultivation. What? If your cultivation surpasses that of a soul saint during stacking, and you become a soul Douluo or even a title Douluo, you don't need to hunt soul beasts anymore and can automatically obtain the most suitable soul ring soul skill for yourself. Just as Yubai was confused, the first person to be exposed on the heavenly Tao list in his past and present life was actually Tang San, who was pure and pure. Tsk Tiska. The second one is actually me. Wait, Bibi Dong, Zhu Zhuqing, Hulaina. Why are they also here? Keywords of the novel. Douluo's past life and present life opening exposure Tang San without a pop-up window, Douluo's past life and present life opening exposure Tang San complete collection download, Douluo's past life and present life opening exposure Tang San's latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. 001 Kassel Academy, Pretty Young Feather White. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1001 Kassel Academy, Pretty Young Feather White. Douluo Continent is a world where strength is paramount. Here, only the strong are the focus of everyone's attention. They have a unified title called Soul Master. And the strength of soul power and martial soul represents the strength of soul masters. Koreang City is located within the territory of the Tiendo Empire, near the capital of the Tiendo Empire. Tiendo City, situated between Tiendo City and Sunset Forest. Perhaps due to its geographical location, almost every day many soul masters pass by Corinth City to hunt for soul rings in the Sunset Forest, making the city slightly less prosperous than the capital city of Tiendo. Therefore, Corinth City also has a prestigious Soul Master Academy. Kassel Academy. Even in the Tiendo Empire. At this moment, in the second class of freshmen at Kassel College. As is well known, the standard for hunting soul rings depends not only on the age of the soul ring, but also on the type of martial soul of the soul master. Only by choosing a soul beast soul ring that matches one's own martial soul can one maximize the advantages of their respective martial soul characteristics. On the podium, a sexy and beautiful female teacher, who is about 30 years old, is earnestly pointing to the blackboard to give a lecture, while most of the students below are listening attentively to the content of the female teacher's lecture. In the back row of the classroom, next to the window, a young boy with short silver hair, about 12 years old, was sleeping soundly on his desk. The fragmented bangs covered the area, half covering the eyebrows and eyes. On the fair and smooth face, there are even some almost invisible hairs, symbolizing the immaturity of the youth. The sunlight approaching noon shone through the window, shining on the young boy's silver short hair, adding a touch of brightness and warmth to the entire classroom. On the boy's desk, the shadow of the window under sunlight gradually shortened, and suddenly, ding-ling-ling. The bell for the end of class suddenly rang. In the next moment, the boy sleeping soundly on the desk suddenly opened his eyes, half covered by bangs, and sat up straight in an instant. His handsome face was full of fear, and cold sweat oozed from his forehead, breathing fresh air in big gulps. Ha, ha, ha! Next to the boy, a fat man with glasses seemed to see the strange appearance of his desk mate. He calmly took out a bag of snacks made of dried meat of unknown types from under the desk, skillfully ripped open the pocket, took out the dried meat, ate while turning to look at his desk mate, calmly roast, "Wake up, little white. Speaking of which, I really envy you. The daily classes are just cultural classes in the morning and practical training classes in the afternoon. And since the start of school a month ago, you have been sleeping in every cultural class every day, even the teacher doesn't care. This is the treatment that innate soul power level 9 can only enjoy when you are only 11 years old and almost 12 years old, a genius with 27 levels of soul power can enjoy. Damn it. How envious. Hey. Who said I'm just an ordinary food type soul master? Even my soul power is only 21 levels. Beside him, Yubai, whose frightened expression had not completely faded, heard the familiar and annoying nagging sound and instinctively laughed and cursed, "Shut up, you talkative chubby guy." As soon as the words fell, Yubai finally saw the scene in front of him clearly. The expression on his handsome face also froze, and his eyes were filled with confusion. Subconsciously, he murmured, "Where is this? Didn't I see a little girl slip into the river before and go down to save someone? How could?" Next to him, the chubby little man who was biting into the jerky heard Yubai's murmur, which was understandable. After disdainfully glancing at Yubai, he perfunctorily said, "Yes, yes. You are saving the little girl. For 30 days a month, you save the little girl who stumbled and fell into the water in your dream every morning." As he spoke, the chubby little man Shizheng turned around. On his chubby face, his small eyes squeezed by flesh were full of lascivious expressions, and he looked at Yubai asking in a low voice, "Isn't that little girl very, very beautiful? Otherwise, you wouldn't have saved her in your dream for a whole month." Speaking like this, Shi Jinping's smile on his face became increasingly lewd. When Yubai, who was still in a daze, heard the voice of Shi Zheng and was about to ask, many unfamiliar and familiar memories suddenly appeared in his mind. After quickly digesting all the memories, Yubai finally realized that he was reborn in the world of the novel Douluo Continent that he had read in his previous life, and it wasn't until a month ago that he completely restored all the memories of his previous life. Thinking of how lucky she was to be reborn in this world known to herself as love. Douluo Continent, and recalling the gorgeous soul skills and magical martial souls she saw in her previous life when reading novels and chasing anime, Yubai was too lazy to slowly browse through other unfamiliar memories of the past 12 years after her rebirth, and directly investigated the martial soul and soul power situation inside her body. My martial soul is actually a weapon martial soul. The Chongqing sword. Moreover, my innate soul power is still level 9. The most important thing is that at the age of less than 12, he is already a level 27 soul master with a 400-year-old yellow first soul ring and a 700-year-old yellow second soul ring. Such a talent, becoming a god is not an unattainable luxury. At the thought of becoming a god in this world, the bright and divine eyes of Yubai's innocent face suddenly burst into a light known as wild hope. Although in his past life, he often despised the power value of this world online, when he truly went deep into this world, Yubai only wanted to shout, "Truly fragrant." After all, the low value of military power belongs to the low value of military power, but it can survive. Hey! Hey! What's going on? My mouth is watering. Hey! Wake up! Just as Yubai was imagining a beautiful life after becoming a god, a burst of shouting suddenly came to his ear. Upon regaining her senses, Yubai instinctively turned her head and stared in the direction of the sound. What caught her eye was a plump and round face, which was only 5 centimeters away from her own. "Who are you, this guy?" With a startled expression, Yubai instinctively moved her body back quickly and raised her hand, slapping it directly over her chubby face and pushing it away. Shi Zheng was also blinded by Yubai's sudden action. After regaining his senses, he lifted Yubai's hand that covered his face with one hand and looked at him, a young and close friend, with a speechless expression on his face. He said fiercely, "Xiao Bai. You're so sleepy, aren't you? You don't even know your most respected chubby guy, Mr. Shi Zhengshi. Do you want me to make you a refreshing jerky to wake you up?" End of this chapter. Chapter 2. 002 Pangye Shi Controversy, is the heavenly list of past and present lives exposed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2002 Pangye Shi Controversy, is the heavenly list of past and present lives exposed. Upon hearing the 4 words Fat Master Shizheng, Yubai instinctively said, so it's little chubby guy. At the moment of speaking, relevant memories came to Yubai's mind. Originally, because Shizheng and his parents, as well as his own parents, have been teammates since attending elementary Soul Master School and were neighbors when they settled down after marriage, he and Shizheng, a chubby young man of the same age, became both childhood friends and close friends in this life. In addition, Shizheng, the chubby little guy, inherited his mother's martial soul food system. Dried meat, which tasted quite in line with the taste of Yubai. The two of them launched a strong attack and assisted each other, forming a 2-person team from a young age. After thoroughly digesting the relevant memories, Yubai felt a power he had never experienced before in his body. He couldn't wait to personally exert this power, so he looked at Shizheng and urged him, let's go, little chubby guy. It's all over now. Hurry up and get some work done. Not being proactive in cooking, having a problem with one's broad mind. The obese body was swayed by Yubai's push, and Shizheng immediately looked at Yubai, who was still pushing his arm, with no good airway. Have you really fallen asleep? Have you forgotten what day it is today? Before Yubai could recall, Shizheng stared at him and shook his head, sighing, today is the once-in-a-month screening day for the past and present heavenly list. The Martial Soul Hall, Tiando, and Xinglua empires have jointly stipulated that during the screening time of the heavenly list at the beginning and noon of each month, teachers and students from all Soul Master colleges in the mainland must watch together. Our college has regulations that lunch must start at the beginning of each month after the end of the screening period on the Tianbang. As he spoke, little Pangdun Shizheng reached out and took out a handful of dried meat from his pocket, directly putting it into his mouth. While eating, he muttered, sigh. Besides, although we have a past life and the possibility of being broadcasted by the heavenly way is almost non-existent, dreams still need to be there. If that 1 in 10,000 chance happens, and we really become the main characters in the drama broadcasted by the heavenly way, that would be great. As he spoke, Shizheng's chubby face was filled with longing, as if hoping for some divine opportunity. What? The monthly screening date of the past and present life chart. What the hell is that? Is there still this plot in Douluo Continent? Subconsciously scratching his silver short hair, his handsome face was full of confusion. However, at this moment, another unfamiliar memory emerged from his mind. After quickly browsing through it, Yubai's bewildered expression disappeared. Instead, an inexplicable smile rose from the corner of his mouth, and he muttered to himself, the screening of the past and present life charts. This is really interesting. As he spoke, Yubai reached out and grabbed a handful of dried meat from the bag filled with dried meat in the nearby chubby stone struggle, slowly eating it. For Yubai's movements, Xiapengdan Shizheng ignored them directly, and at the same time, he grabbed a piece of dried meat from the bag and put it in his mouth, biting and chewing it while praising it. You're right, just like the 2 protagonists who played in their past and present lives a few years ago, almost laughed me to death. On the previous life scene broadcasted on the Heavenly Way chart, those 2 guys were playing for one prostitute, and one of them was stabbed in the butt by the other. The night they survived, they died on the woman's belly. But in reality, someone soon revealed that these 2 people had actually become husband and wife in this life, and they were also the wife of the other who died on a woman's belly. Good guy, this is really like you stabbing me in a past life, and I will repay it 1,000 times in this life. Although he had already seen the relevant incident in his memory, listening to the teasing in front of him, Yubai couldn't help but twitch at the corner of his mouth. Damn it, is this how it's used for thousands of times reporting? Little Pangdun Shizheng didn't pay attention to the changes in his close friend's expression. Instead, a hopeful expression appeared on his chubby face, and he continued, however, I really hope that among the characters on the list this time, there is Fat Master myself, and Fat Master's past life can be a bit more prestigious. Just like that Red Sun Douluo, who was just a soul saint, but after exposing his previous life's title Douluo Cultivation, his cultivation directly increased when he first activated his martial soul true body, becoming a title Douluo again. It is said that even soul rings do not need to be hunted, and instead, based on his martial soul, Red Sun Vine, the 8th and 9th soul skills that are most suitable for Red Sun Douluo's martial soul have been formed. Similarly, with my innate talent of level 7 soul power, Fat Master is at most a soul saint in this life, just enough to meet the conditions for me to use my martial soul true body alone. If I were also a soul saint or even a soul Douluo in my previous life, and were titled Douluo, then when Fat Master first uses my martial soul true body and fills all the soul power in my previous life, I could directly achieve soul Douluo or even a title Douluo. TSK, such a beautiful dream, I dare not think. Looking at the chubby little guy on his chubby face who couldn't think or even think, with his small eyes almost filled with the words, desire, written on them, Yubai silently glanced at his deceitful accomplice, then leaned back on the back of the chair and casually said, don't think so much, maybe this month's Heavenly Way list is empty again, anyway it has been empty for almost a year. Furthermore, if you can make it on the list, you are already very lucky. Even if your previous life strength is not strong, although it doesn't increase much after becoming a soul saint and opening the martial soul realm for the first time, don't forget that as long as you make it on the list, all the knowledge and experience from your previous life will be directly imparted to you at the moment of exposure, which is also a rich heritage. Just as they were talking, other classmates in the classroom were eagerly anticipating the arrival of noon. When the previous and present lives of the Heavenly Way list were exposed, all living beings on the Douluo Continent, including humans and soul beasts, were discussing, hey. Time is running out. The exposure of this month's past and present life charts is finally about to begin. I hope I won't be on the empty list again this month. If there's really no one on it, I hope I can be on the list and exposed. You want to eat shit. I'm just the son of an earl. I'm a member of the Heavenly Do royal family, and if you want to make it to the list, it must be me. Take a good look at my grandfather's past glory. Martial Soul City, inside the Papal Palace, Pope Bibidong leans on the papal throne, dressed in a luxurious black robe adorned with gold patterns, wearing a 9-curved purple gold crown on his head, and holding a scepter about 2 meters long, inlaid with countless gemstones. Fair skin. A nearly perfect appearance. Make her look so unique. Especially as she reclined on the papal throne at this moment, her seductive legs curled up, her pink yet slender jade hands clenched her fists, leaning on her stunning and dreamy face, her narrow eyes slightly closed, as if pondering something. The invisibly lazy yet noble and sacred feeling emanating from one's body is even more irresistible, evoking a feeling of reverence and reverence. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. 003 Attitudes of Major Forces. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3003 Attitudes of Major Forces. In front of the papal throne, 2 men stand on either side below the steps. The man standing on the left was dressed in black, with black hair and even 2 black lines on his face, resembling a ghost from hell, emitting a cold and gloomy aura. The man on the right, on the other hand, is exactly the opposite. His clothing and hair are all golden, and his face is even more seductive. He is like a blooming chrysanthemum, exuding a charming temperament invisibly. If it weren't for the obvious male characteristics of the Adam's apple, one might even mistake it for a beauty at first glance. They are the 2 most famous Douluo titles under the command of Pope Bibidong, namely the 95th level Douluo title, the Ghost Douluo Ghost with the title Ghost, and the Special Martial Soul Ghost, and also the Chirong Tong Tian Chrysanthemum with a soul power of up to 95 levels and a Super Martial Soul, and the Chrysanthemum Douluo with the title of Chrysanthemum, Moon Pass. Crunch, with a faint sound coming from the door of the papal palace, a seductive and charming figure walked in. The newcomer is the only female among the 3 known as the Golden Generation in the Martial Soul Hall, and the only biological disciple of Bibidong, Hulina. A few steps before arriving at the main hall, Hulina bowed slightly to Bibidong, who was resting on the Pope's throne with her eyes closed. She then stood up, as if her captivating eyes were looking at Bibi Dong on the Pope's throne. However, as she looked at Bibi Dong on the Pope's throne at this moment, there was only a strong sense of dependence and admiration. Master, the monthly exposure of the past and present life sky charts is about to begin. Above, on the papal throne, Bibi Dong slowly opened his eyes and exuded a more majestic aura. In the depths of those pink eyes, it seemed to harbor a desire to destroy everything in the world. Only when looking down at the girl below can a faint warmth and affection arise. Red lips lightly parted, and a beautiful voice sounded from Bibi Dong, "Oh, is it this time again? So, what about the arrangement of the testing and statistics personnel? Don't let talent flow out of the martial soul hall." As Bibi Dong's words fell, Ju Douluo nodded below and looked at Hulayina in the audience with a coquettish smile, agreeing, "Oh, yes, Your Highness, you should know that according to the statistics and talent judgment of those exposed individuals in our martial soul hall over the past 11 years, these individuals can even achieve the lowest level of future achievements and become soul emperor powerhouses. Such powerhouses, even if placed in our martial soul hall, are also intermediate forces. We can't let such talent slip into the two empires." Ghost Douluo, with his arms embracing his chest and a cold expression on his face, nodded in agreement. Faced with the gaze of the three-titled Douluo, a confident smile appeared on Hulina's pretty face, and she chuckled lightly, "Please rest assured, Master, as well as Grandpa Moon and Grandpa Ghost, that as early as a day ago, I had already issued orders to all branches and sub-colleges of the Martial Soul Hall, including the Martial Soul City Martial Soul Hall Academy, all over the continent. I guarantee that there will be a dedicated deacon in each class to inspect, and I believe no exposed person will be missed." Speaking, Hulina pursed her red lips before continuing, "However, because there have been almost no new whistleblowers in recent years, the two empires are no longer strictly enforcing the laws they once issued. In the past year, the colleges belonging to the two empires have not even been enforcing the laws they once signed with the temple. Most of them have regarded the monthly daily chart exposure as some entertainment projects." Raising his hand to stop Hulina's report, Bibi Dong let out a cold snort, his eyes filled with disdain and disgust. He slowly stood up, holding a scepter in one hand and sneered, "Sure enough, the two empires have already decayed, and they are not even paying attention to talent now. Such an empire, this city can even see their downfall." After speaking, Bibi Dong finally looked down at Hulina again, and his pink eyes regained their gentleness. "All right, since we have already arranged the affairs of our Martial Soul Hall Academy, let's sit down and wait for noontime together. I have a premonition that there may be new exposures appearing today." Seven Treasure Glass Sect, Pangye, has Xiaorong replied recently. An old man with a body size larger than that of a normal person looked up at the handsome and confident middle-aged man directly above, his eyes full of hope. Wearing a water blue robe and silver hair on the side, yet exuding an incredibly sharp aura, like another old man wielding a sword. Although he remained silent, he also looked at the middle-aged man sitting on the throne, which was self-evident. These three people are the leader of the Seven Treasures Glass Sect, Ning Pangye, the 95-level defense Super Douluo Bone Rong, and the 96-level strong attack Super Douluo Sword Douluo, Qinshin. As for Xiao Rongrong, among the few people, it is the little princess of the Seven Treasures Glass Sect, Ning Rongrong. Faced with the gaze of his two protector Douluo, Ning Pangye's handsome face was filled with speechlessness, and even a slight tingling of scalp. With a bitter smile, Ning Pangye sighed and then looked at the two old men who were almost 200 years old. The bitter-mouthed old woman thought to herself, "Uncle Gu and Uncle Jian, as you both know, Rongrong only signed up to join Shrek College yesterday and wrote a reply. How could she write another reply today? Let me tell you, your two elders are too spoiled by Rongrong." Before Ning Pangye could finish speaking, the anticipation on Jian Douluo's face disappeared and he let out a cold, expressionless snort, "Humph. If you ask me, Rongrong should stay in the sect and grow up happily and carefree. Can the teachings of the two Super Douluo players, Old Bone and I, in the sect be no match for a wild chicken academy with the highest strength and only a soul saint? In dealing with Ning Rongrong, even Gu Douluo, who has always been at odds with Jian Douluo, nodded repeatedly, which perfectly matched Jian Douluo's words. Once again, seeing the attitude of these two uncles towards their own daughters, Ning Pangye, the head of the Seven Treasures Glass sect, couldn't help but let out a long sigh in his heart. Then, he quickly changed the topic and said, "By the way, Sword Uncle Bone Uncle, regarding the exposure of this past life and present life chart, my martial soul Seven Treasures Glass Pagoda has some unusual changes, and the feeling it gives me is even more obvious than the few 20 times in the past decade. That is to say, there will definitely be new whistleblowers appearing today." Facing the slightly surprised expressions of the two titled Douluo, Ning Fengji's expression was a bit solemn, and he continued, "Moreover, I estimate that this exposure may be related to our Seven Treasures Glass sect." As soon as the words fell, Gu Douluo and Jian Douluo became serious. End of this chapter. Chapter 4004. Clear and Pure Tang San. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4004. Clear and Pure Tang San. Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus Rex Sect. Yulumian looked at the elder brother on the throne of the patriarch, dressed in golden soft armor, with short snow-white hair, and also the head of the entire Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family, Yuanzhen, and asked, "Big brother, it's time for the release of the past and present life charts this month. Do we need to go out, Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus Rex Sect?" When Yulumian said this, his gaze was fixed on Yuanzhen. He knew his elder brother understood what he was saying. No need. Yuanzhen just waved his hand and said randomly in his aged voice, "Only focus on those who have been exposed on the Heavenly Way list and have owned the Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus Rex in their past lives, or have become members of my Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family in this life. After all, the entire continent is too large, with a population that may even exceed billions, and a larger number of soul beasts. How could we possibly find the only exposed person? In the past decade, the resources spent on collecting less than 20 exposed ones in the Martial Soul Hall can even double the number of powerful ones. The Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family, won't do such a loss-making deal. Tiendo City, the palace of the Tiendo Empire, inside the pavilion of the Crown Prince's mansion, Pop. Gently lowering the tea-cup, a gentle and aristocratic young man with a smirk on his face stood up slowly, leaving the stone table in the pavilion. He turned around and walked to the edge of the pavilion, staring at the nearby flower sea and muttering to himself, "This time, I will definitely find the exposer first and conquer him, making him useful to me. It's your turn to taste the taste of failure, my good sister." At the same time, in a small village outside the city of Soto in the Barak Kingdom under the Heavenly Do Empire, there is a crooked small wooden plaque hanging at the entrance of a house, with the words, Shrek Academy, written on it. In the lower right corner of the plaque, there is also an ugly green monster head painted on it, and the Academy is located here. Adding the rows of rural wooden houses with only the internal buildings, it would be more appropriate to call this place a village instead of a college. At this moment, on the Shrek Academy playground, Fran looked at the 7 students in front of him and nodded in satisfaction, especially as he looked at the 4 new students recruited yesterday. The smile at the corner of Fran's eyes was almost visible. Ghosts. Good guy. 4 people came. One was the little princess of the 7 Treasures Glass Sect, one is Miss Zhu from the Starry Falling family. The last pair of children and girls were not only innate geniuses full of soul power, but also the sons of the famous Haotian Douluo. This almost gathers the descendants of nearly half of the powerful forces in Douluo Continent. Meanwhile, this is the only time in nearly 20 years that Shrek Academy has gathered enough students to form a team of 7, and with the talent of these little monsters, even the Pan-Continent Soul Master Academy competition 2 years later is not impossible to participate in. At that time, with the talents and reputation of these little monsters, they could definitely attract a large number of new blood to Shrek Academy. Cough. With a dry cough twice, Fran forcefully controlled the corner of his mouth that was about to crack his teeth. He pushed the square glasses hanging from his hooked nose, and then scanned the 7 young men in front of him with an owl-like gaze. He spoke calmly, first of all, as the Dean of Shrek College, I, the 78th level Soul Saint and the Four-Eyed Owl Fran, congratulate you on successfully passing the selection process and joining Shrek College. However, your training should have started next, but today's time is a bit special. As you know, it will soon be the exposure time of this month's past and present life chart. So, the Dean has decided to wait for everyone to watch this month's Tiandao exposure together before starting today's training course. After speaking, Fran placed his hands behind his back and stopped speaking. Cut. What's good about being exposed? If my past life was a bit dirty, wouldn't I just die in this life? As Fran's personal disciple, the chubby Ma Hongjun said disdainfully. Just thinking about it, if his past life was just like this life, drilling into the grass nest every day, and such scenes were exposed, Ma Hongjun felt that he could go to another planet to survive. Beside him, Oscar and Dai Mubai, who were also friends of Ma Hongjun and had long been aware of his thoughts, exchanged a glance and burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. You're just afraid that the scene of yourself dying on a woman's belly in your past life will be exposed, right? As a close friend, the happiest thing is undoubtedly uncovering the secrets of a friend. The newly enrolled Tang Sansi and his companions were also caught in the eye at this moment, looking curiously at these 3 old students, wanting to know what they were joking about. If you look carefully, you will find that Tang San's expression on his face is inexplicable, as if it's a bit strange. At this moment, Ma Hongjun listened to the 2 despicable guys around him not only exposing himself in front of his younger classmates, but also ridiculing them so recklessly. He was also anxious and turned around to curse at the 2 of them. Humph. You 2 can't get any better either. Xiao Ao, you are born with a slutty face. If you had a past life, you might have been a little white-faced somewhere. And Boss Dai. You are also laughing at me. I can only drill into the grass at most. You Dai Xiao is known as 7 times a night. There are even twin sisters playing with flowers, but I am. Woo. Dai Mubai looked at Ma Hongjun, who was so chubby and bald, and said everything out loud. He quickly stepped forward, hugging Ma Hongjun's neck with one hand and covering his mouth with the other. Don't let Ma Hongjun speak. At the same time, Dai Mubai turned his head to look at Tang San and the 4 of them, his expression somewhat panicked, and he forced a smile to explain, What's going on, chubby guy? He's talking nonsense, nothing. Ha ha ha. While playing ha, Dai Mubai's gaze mainly focused on Zhu Zhuqing, paying attention to her expression changes. However, from beginning to end, Zhu Zhuqing's pretty face was icy cold, as if she was not at all angry, with no expression on her face. Next to Zhu Zhuqing, there is also a little witch named Ning Rongrong who has already understood some adult affairs. Although her true personality has not yet been exposed, she still looks at Dai Mubai, Ma Hongjun with a scumbag-like expression, and even the only better Oscar is despised, disgusting. Xiao Wu, holding Tang San's arm, nodded in agreement and glanced at San Ren with the same disdainful gaze. That's it, old pervert, rogue, dirty. After wearing the venomous tongue on Mu Bai and the other 3, Xiao Wu finally withdrew her gaze and looked at Tang San beside her with satisfied eyes, smiling and saying, It's better for my 3rd brother, who is pure and never does that kind of thing. End of this chapter. Chapter 5005 Tang San. I'm right. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5005 Tang San. I'm right. Xiao Wu gently patted Xiao Wu's little head, indicating that she should not speak recklessly. However, Tang San couldn't help but smile as he watched Xiao Wu playfully tongue out and grimace at him. After retracting his gaze, Tang San's expression gradually became complicated, and he thought to himself, in my past life, as an orphan, I was raised by the sect and became an outsider. However, although I later stole the sect's treasure book, Tang Clan Xiantian Baolu, to learn and study more profound knowledge of hidden weapons, it was only for the sake of more profound knowledge. For those powerful and divine weapons, but for nearly 100 years, no one in the sect has made the various hidden weapons that ranked high in the 100 explanations of hidden weapons reappear in the world. I am not wrong. Moreover, not to mention that I did not disclose the content of the sect's Xiantian treasure record to anyone else. In the end, even the first hidden weapon that had not been crafted by the entire Tang sect for nearly a century was successfully re-crafted by Buddha Anger Tang Lien, and it appeared in the world. In the end, I was just jumping off a cliff with red stripes and did not take away any needle or thread from the sect. But in this regard, I did not owe anything to the sect. On the contrary, the sect should thank me for reproducing the first hidden weapon that had not been crafted by the Tang sect for nearly a century in the world. Thinking so in his heart, Tang San's heart gradually calmed down. Instead, his eyes lit up as he saw the awkward expressions on Dai Mubai's faces due to what had just happened. With a light smile, Tang San immediately helped them out and changed the topic. However, in other words, the greatest benefit that this so-called exposure of the past life brings to the exposed person is only the cultivation, knowledge, and experience of the past life. For us, this should be just that. After all, according to my teacher's research, as long as the innate soul power level is above level 9, there is a chance to achieve the title Douluo in the future. Why does the Dean want us to pay attention to such things? After yesterday's investigation, Tang San knew that everyone present had very good talents, almost all of whom were born at level 9 or above, otherwise it would not have been possible to be accepted by Shrek Academy. However, Tang San had forgotten that Zhu Zhuqing, who had a low presence in the field and was hardly sociable, had an innate level of only 7. He also didn't know that the highest achievement of the 7 Treasures Glass Pagoda's martial soul was only Soul Saint. However, for Tang San's words, Zhu Zhuqing's pretty face was full of indifference, and her eyes were filled with stillness. She didn't take the initiative to say anything. As a little witch, I can hardly see anyone's Ning Rongrong clearly, and I don't want anyone to know about my martial soul defect. Therefore, I didn't refute anything, but I inexplicably felt a slight displeasure towards Tang San in my heart. With a sneer in his heart, is it so easy to achieve the title of Douluo? Do you think you can achieve it just by talent? It's simply naive. Also, Tuboozi means Tuboozi. Do you really think that there were only those things on the heavenly list in the past and present lives? I'm really ignorant. Glancing casually at Tang San, who was held by Xiao Wu's arm, Ning Rongrong's eyes flickered with a hint of contempt. However, she was too lazy to educate Tang San, a bumpkin, and just stood with Zhu Zhuqing with a naive and innocent face, smiling. Not far away, due to Tang San's words, Dai Mubai was able to break free from the awkward situation. He first looked gratefully at Tang San, then followed Tang San's provocation and diverted everyone's attention, saying, although what you said, mistress, is good, the matter of the heavenly way ranking in this past and present life is not so simple. What you just said, mistress, is just a popular version that almost everyone on Douluo Continent knows. However, in reality, all the major forces have tacitly concealed the true terror of the heavenly way list. Upon hearing Dai Mubai's words, Tang San was immediately stunned, and even Xiao Wu looked surprised. He looked at Dai Mubai curiously and asked, "Hey, Lush Tiger, is there anything else hidden about the exposure of this heavenly Dao ranking?" The rest of the people were indifferent. After all, Oscar, Ma Hongjun and others had already heard Dai Mubai say it, while Ning Rongrong and Zhu Zhuqing had also known those secrets during their family years. Only Tang San and Xiao Wu were present. They really didn't know anything. Dai Mubai ignored Xiao Wu's call of Lust Tiger, and then explained to the two of them, the biggest benefits are actually two, both of which are revealed from the Martial Soul Hall. Firstly, You only know that if the exposed person's strength reaches the level of Soul Saint, the first time they activate the martial soul true, their soul power cultivation from the previous life will be topped up, resulting in the most suitable soul ring soul skill for themselves. However, you don't know that these topped-up soul powers can also be used to choose to build foundations and strengthen their body strength. You should know that an ordinary person may only have a red soul ring when achieving the title Douluo in their lifetime. However, if a genius uses those past life cultivation to strengthen their body strength, although they will lose the most suitable soul ring soul skill and soul power level, they can choose to hunt 100,000-year-old soul beasts in the 8th ring and obtain 100,000-year soul rings and soul bones, which is much more beneficial than the soul rings and soul bones they generate themselves. Upon hearing this, Tang San's eyes suddenly lit up. Murmured, I didn't expect to be able to operate like this. By using this method to achieve the title Douluo, isn't it much more powerful than ordinary title Douluo of the same level? Even fighting over levels is not impossible. However, when Tang San said these words, he didn't notice at all, and Xiaowu's body, who was holding her arm beside him, trembled. Dai Mubai looked at Tang San's surprised expression and felt a sense of pride inexplicably rising in his heart. His face had a slightly stronger smile, and he continued to smile. Moreover, the biggest benefit is actually the second one, which is that the exposed person has a very high chance of either evolving their own martial soul, or immediately awakening their previous martial soul in their body after the Tianbang exposure ends, becoming a rare twin martial soul owner. So, everyone on this continent, even if someone like Fatty claims they don't want to become an exposure person, in reality, if they really become an exposure person, they will definitely be happy to take off. At the moment when the words fell, Dai Mubai's desire almost overflowed from the bottom of her eyes. The other few people are the same. Martial soul evolution. Twin martial souls. The first time Tang San heard such a statement, Xiao Wu and the other two were both stunned. However, at this moment, a loud noise suddenly came from the sky, like the sound of fairy music singing in unison. At this moment, the entire Douluo Continent completely quieted down, except for the natural sounds of water, fire, wind, and thunder. There was no sound. In the next moment, 2 golden dragons appeared in the minds of all living beings in the Douluo Continent, slowly moving towards both sides, as if pulling open the curtain. Immediately after, a line of big characters appeared directly on the screen of light in the minds of all living beings. End of this chapter. Chapter 6, 006 The Exposer Unexpectedly. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6, 006 The Exposer Unexpectedly. We're starting. At this moment, all living beings in the Douluo Continent instinctively held their breath. Colin City, Kassel College, Freshman Class 2, looking at the sudden image that appeared in his mind, Yubai, even though he had fused his memories and knew that every time a new exposure appeared, the Heavenly Way list would appear like this, but he still felt shocked. Moreover, according to memory, Yubai learned that when the Heavenly Way list first appeared, it was not bad compared to when he was born. Perhaps I didn't think much before, but when I completely awakened my past life memories just now, Yubai now has 100% confidence in her heart that the emergence of Tianbang is definitely related to her rebirth. As his mind flipped, Yubai saw several big characters dancing like dragons and phoenixes slowly emerging from the screen of light in his mind. Tang San from past life and present life. Tang San. Is it him? At the moment of seeing this name appear, Yubai's eyes slightly froze. Tang San. This is the true protagonist of the entire Douluo Continent world, even surpassing level 100 to become a god in the future, and it is also the existence of achieving the dual positions of the first level god, the sea god, and the law enforcement god. However, when she thought about how this guy would enforce the law fairly after becoming a deity in the future, how to control the Douluo Continent tightly in her hands, how to turn the Douluo divine realm into a big family of the Tang family, and a series of operations, Yubai knew that if she couldn't achieve the position of the divine king before Tang San, with this guy's urine nature, her desired longevity could only be a simple dream. Of course, there is another path, but that is one that Yubai will never choose. As soon as he thought of Tang San's existence, Yubai's mind gradually regained consciousness from the joy of rebirth, and his mood became slightly heavy. No way. Tang San must first obtain the divine throne inheritance of the divine king, otherwise even if he ascends to the divine realm, he will inevitably be tricked by this dirty thing. Thinking so in her heart, Yubai raised her eyebrows and began to calculate in her mind. There are still 2 years left until the next Pan-Continent Soul Master Academy competition. If we calculate this, Tang San should only be around 12 years old now, and he probably has just joined Shrek Academy. In this way, the immortal grass with the eyes of ice and fire, the inheritance of the Shura god in the capital of slaughter, and the inheritance of the sea god on the sea god island cannot be cut off in advance. Just as Yubai was calculating how to intercept the opportunity for Hu Tang to become a god, almost all the major forces in the mainland issued the same order at the same time. That's it, check. Investigate a guy named Tang San in the history of Douluo Continent and see if there is such a strong person. Even ordinary people are discussing and curious about who this guy named Tang San really is in history. Of course, more people are staring at the picture in their minds with bright eyes, hoping that this guy named Tang San's life will be wonderful. Within Shrek College, when the name Tang San appeared, everyone's eyes instinctively turned to Tang San standing in the middle of them, looking extremely shocked. Hey! Brother! The name of the exposed person this time is the same as yours. Maybe you are the protagonist of this exposure, brother. That's really great. The little dance holding Tang San's arm immediately jumped up and cheered, breaking the quiet atmosphere of the scene. The others also regained their senses at this moment, and their gaze towards Tang San also became envious. Good guy, I have a premonition that this exposure by Tang San may really be you, Tang San. This is also too good luck. Why isn't the protagonist of the exposure not me? Although I said verbally that I don't want to become an exposure person before, it was just a verbal statement. Oh my goodness, I'm not afraid of being exposed. Why don't you change the protagonist of the exposure? I'm at least a rare and unparalleled genius with a phoenix martial soul. It's just that. And me, I'm a food-born soul, full person who has never appeared before. Bulging. Watching people around me become exposed is even more uncomfortable than not being exposed. Even Zhu Zhuqing, whose pretty face was full of cold colors, couldn't help but glance at Tang San at the moment. Then he withdrew his gaze, and his expression was as cold and lifeless as before. Even Fran gave Tang San a deep glance, and this time he looked at the other 3 boys who were crying and howling with anger and shouted, "Everyone shut up. Quietly watch the next scene on the Heavenly Way list." Facing the envious and jealous gazes of everyone, as well as the proud gaze of Xiao Wu beside him, Tang San's expression became somewhat strange. However, after thinking about his previous thoughts, he finally calmed down. Forget it, just expose it. Anyway, it's not wrong to have it in your past life. However, although what was not discovered was that in the woods outside Shrek College, on a large tree, a middle-aged man dressed in a tattered cloak and extremely messy all over was slightly moving his head up to drink with wine red, and his wine pot in his hand fell without realizing it. His face, numb from the vicissitudes of life, was full of disbelief and pain, a reborn person with memories of past lives. I see. But in this way, Tang San. Can he really be considered my child? Meanwhile, Notting City, Notting Junior Soul Master Academy, as one of the 2 most outstanding graduates in the history of Notting Junior Soul Master College, Tang San can be considered a true celebrity. Wow, it's Tang San. It must be Tang San. Cut. Who said that? There might be many people named Tang San in this world, but who knows, it must be the Tang San who left our college. You're such a disrespecter to Tang San, be careful that Xiaowu will come back and deal with you if she hears this. Anyway, I just don't think. In the faculty dormitory, Yu Shaojiang looked at the name that appeared in his mind and was slightly stunned. His expression immediately became ecstatic with joy. Tang San. This Tang San must be my disciple. It can never be someone else named Tang San. No wonder this child has always looked like a little adult. That's why. This is simply great. With Tang San's current talent for twin martial souls, if he had accumulated bonuses from his past life, and even awakened his martial soul once again, becoming an unprecedented awakener of the twin martial souls. At the thought of this situation, Yu Shaojiang's face immediately turned red with excitement, and he couldn't control his emotions anymore. He burst into laughter, ha ha ha. I did not see it wrong, Tang San truly deserves to be my own disciple. This is the true genius that has never been seen before. Martial Soul Hall. Bibi Dong. And those who once looked down on me. Wait for me, my disciple will prove for me that I am not a waste. Make you look down on me and mock me. I will make you regret it for life. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. 007 Tang Lan, Tang San. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7007 Tang Lan, Tang San. Under the gaze of all living beings, a few large characters on the screen of light slowly disappeared, followed by a picture. On the screen, the sky is shrouded in dark clouds, and the gloomy wind howls, as if it is about to rain at any time. In the evening, rows of thatched cottages in a small village located in the mountains and forests are now blazing with flames. Thick white smoke rises, mixed with strong winds, flying everywhere, as if it were the end of the world. In the village, villagers were lying on the ground in all directions, their cheeks, chests, and necks covered in wounds cut by large knives, bleeding profusely. All the furniture and pots and pans of the villagers were casually thrown on the roadside, and strange ruts and horse hoof marks appeared. Occasionally, some food was scattered beside them. And these traces, all I want is to let go of the village entrance. Undoubtedly, this small village in the mountains and forests has been invaded by bandits, and it is still one of the most brutal and ruthless bandits who can kill anyone they see. On Douluo Continent, when everyone who was originally enthusiastic saw this scene, many ordinary people turned pale and even vomited. Hush. Is this guy named Tang San on such a big scene when he comes up here? It seems very miserable. TSK, to village. And looking at the scene, you must have encountered a group of bandits, right? These guys are also tough enough. Hey. In this situation, this guy named Tang San is probably one of the villagers who have been chopped down, isn't he? So, isn't this guy named Tang San going to die soon? This is too tragic, isn't it? Just as everyone was speculating in their minds, the image on the screen suddenly changed. At some point, an old man wearing white clothes and with white hair suddenly appeared in the center of the village in the picture, looking at the tragic scene around him. His old face was filled with anger. Damn it. It's these notorious Nine Alliance bandits again. These scumbags who kill without blinking an eye and make fun of themselves have actually robbed and massacred a village. I will definitely eradicate these thieves in my lifetime. Revenge these people, including those 4 Tang Sect disciples. Just as the old man's voice fell, the identity introduction of the old man appeared very thoughtfully on the Tianbang screen. On the screen, a large line of characters appeared beside the old man, Tang Lan, the Grand Elder of the Tang Sect in Shushan. At the moment of seeing the introduction of the old man's identity, all the forces on Douluo Continent were frozen in expression. Shushan Tangmen. Is it a hidden force on the mainland? Martial Soul Hall, within the Pope's Point, when Bibi Dong, who was sitting on the papal throne, looked at the 4 words, Shu Shan Tang Men, he first breathed a sigh of relief, and then his pretty eyebrows furrowed again. It seems that the exposed person this time is this so-called Tang clan person. Fortunately, the exposed person this time is not the remnants of the Haotian sect. Otherwise, we will have to consider whether to find a way to sweep away the Haotian sect before the soul-hunting plan begins. However, this force called the Shushan Tangmen seems to have never been heard of by our sect. Elders, do you know any news about this force? Below, Ju Douluo and Gue Douluo met with a bewildered expression on their faces. After hesitating for a moment, Ju Douluo took a step forward and looked at Bibi Dong in the seat above, his voice slightly hesitant. His Majesty the Pope, we have never heard of any information about the Tang clan in Shu Mountain. Moreover, there seems to be no mountain range called Shu Mountain in the entire Douluo Continent now. So, my subordinates speculate that this so-called Shushan Tangmen may have been a force from at least tens of thousands of years ago in the history of Douluo Continent. Perhaps at that time, there was indeed a mountain peak called Shushan on the mainland, but it changed its name with the progress of history. And that force called Tangmen probably also collapsed with the passage of time. After all, if there were any power that could continue from tens of thousands of years ago to the present day, with the power and intelligence capabilities of our martial soul hall, it is impossible not to receive any news at all. After a moment of contemplation, Bibi Dong nodded in agreement with Ju Douluo's words, but then continued to command Ju Douluo, however, we are still arranging some personnel to carefully search for historical information on the mainland, and try to find this force called Shushan Tangmen as much as possible. At the same time, we will organize all the sect information that appeared in history. Upon hearing Bibidong's instructions, Ju Douluo nodded immediately and then went down to arrange. For the newly emerged Tangmen sect in Shushan, various major forces on the Douluo Continent have also taken similar measures as the Martial Soul Hall. Just as the entire Douluo Continent was under discussion due to the word Shushan Tangmen, the Shrek Academy, looking at the familiar yet unfamiliar old man on the screen of light, Tang San's spirit surged and his expression became somewhat dazed. He couldn't help but murmur in a low voice, "It's Mr. Tang Lan." The voice was very low, so low that even the little dance holding Tang San's arm did not hear Tang San's self-talk. However, not far away, Fran's expression froze and his heart shook violently. As a high-level soul saint at level 78, the terror of hearing is beyond the imagination of ordinary people. It was precisely because of hearing Tang San's low murmur that Fran's heart shook wildly. The smile at the corner of my eyes is almost uncontrollable. Sure enough. Tang San is the one who exposed this time. Ha ha ha. I found a treasure. I really found a treasure. Given the current situation, Tang San, this little guy, is sure to achieve a title Douluo in the future. By then, Shrek will truly become famous on the mainland. Ha ha ha. Xiao Zhang's vision is as sharp as ever. Xiao Gang can finally realize his dream. Perhaps the once golden iron triangle can also converge again. However, suddenly, Vlad seemed to have thought of something, and the smile that had just appeared at the corner of his eyes gradually froze on his face. Not right. Isn't the memory of the exposed person only instilled in their brain when the Tianbang exposure ends? Why does Tang San know the old man on the screen now? Hiss. In that moment, Fran quietly turned to his side, his face changing again and again. The light screen continues, just as the old man named Tang Lan was preparing to hunt down the group of bandits named Join League, a faint baby cry suddenly came from the village. Tang Lan's face changed when he heard the baby crying, and he didn't even think about moving quickly in the direction of the sound. After a few jumps, he arrived outside a burning wooden house. Right here. Listening to the crying of the baby inside the room, Tang Lan didn't even think about it. He ignored the fire and thick smoke on the roof and rushed into the room. In an inconspicuous corner, he found a torn cloth, and the baby's crying couldn't be heard from below. Quickly peel off the rag and reveal the crying baby lying in swaddling clothes below. Bending down to pick up the baby in swaddling clothes, Tang Lan's old face showed a kind smile, especially as he looked at the baby's curious and pure eyes. Tang Lan couldn't help but chuckle lightly, "You little one, you really have a connection with me. In the future, you should be called Tang-san. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. 008 Emperor's Killing Intention. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8008 Emperor's Killing Intention. As he spoke, Tang Lan suddenly heard a creaking sound from the roof and instantly understood that the room was about to collapse. Without much time to think, Tang Lan hugged the baby Tang-san, who was still in swaddling clothes, and quickly left the room. As this scene appeared, the entire screen gradually dimmed. All the creatures watching Douluo Continent watched as the first curtain fell, their faces full of fun and discussion. TSK, it seems that this baby is the protagonist of this exposure, it looks very miserable. Yeah, as soon as he appeared, the whole village was slaughtered. It's really like the protagonist in those mainland storybooks. At the beginning, the whole family. Oh no, it's a village worship ceremony, with boundless power, right? Pushi. They were originally feeling a bit sad for this exposed person named Tang-san, but after hearing your words, they actually wanted to laugh. I really hate it. Compared to the casual discussions and laughter of the general public, some attentive viewers have a solemn expression, something's wrong. Judging from the old man named Tang Lan who was able to chase a group of murderous bandits alone just now, this old man should be a strong one. However, in the picture just now, no soul ring appeared throughout the old man's entire movement. Not bad, and his displayed speed is at most only at the level of Soul King. However, according to Tang Lan's portrayal of his killing heart against bandits on the screen, this should be his full speed. But why hasn't there been a soul ring appearing? This doesn't make sense. As we all know, when a soul master unleashes his soul power, there will definitely be a soul ring appearing. And without a soul ring appearing, it means that the old man hasn't used his true soul power cultivation. But this simply doesn't match the old man's resentment towards bandits displayed on the screen. What's going on here? Just as everyone was puzzled, in the martial soul hall and the offering hall, Douluo, who had been sitting in the main offering position with a calm expression, flashed a hint of surprise on his white-haired and childlike face, as if he had thought of something. Below, in the second position on the left hand, there is an elderly man who looks even older than Douluo. At this moment, he cannot help but look up at Douluo at the top position and curiously opens his mouth. Big brother, do you know anything about the situation on the screen? At this moment, the other major offerings also turned their gaze to the Douluo above, with a curious expression in their eyes. Seeing the curious gazes of the worshippers below, Douluo did not conceal the intentions of these old brothers. There was a hint of nostalgia in his expression, and he spoke lightly, That still when I was young, I heard some things from an angel deity who offered sacrifices. Originally, I always thought that it was just a small story made up by that person and never taken it seriously. However, now it seems that all the stories that person told are true. Upon hearing the great offering say this, the curious expressions on the faces of the other great offering became even more intense, wanting to know what the previous angel god great offering had said. Looking at the expressions of the old brothers below, Douluo smiled and then continued, Once, that person told me that our Douluo Continent is actually just one of the 3,000 small worlds managed by the divine realm. Around our Douluo Continent, there are actually other worlds that have different cultivation methods and belief systems from ours. At first, I thought it was a story, but looking at the old man on the screen, his way of operating his power was clearly different from ours, so now I am certain that what he told me is true. It's obvious that the world where Tang-san, the exposed person, lived in his past life, should be other small worlds. Upon hearing these words, the worshippers were one by one shocked by the information spoken by Douluo. Quickly, the two worshipped golden crocodile Douluo reacted and stood up in an instant, quickly looking at the first 1,000 channels. Big brother. It seems necessary for us to find this exposed person who has already reincarnated, dig out the cultivation rules of other worlds from his mouth, and perhaps help Big Brother become a different kind of god. The other major worshippers also reacted to the words of the second worshipper at this moment, their eyes lit up, and they immediately stood up in agreement. On the first seat, a strange color also appeared on Qiandao Lu's face. Deep in the starry forest, in a special space, a middle-aged man dressed in black stood respectfully on the side, seeming to be talking something. The excitement on his face was hard to suppress, while in front of him was a huge silver-white dragon hovering in mid-air, quietly suspended. Lord, this is definitely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for our Soul Beast clan. As long as we find this exposed person, take out his previous life's method of enhancing strength without absorbing soul rings, improve it, and then try to spread it to humans on a large scale. If we want to succeed, not to mention that our Soul Beast clan will not be hunted by humans to take away soul rings and bones, and can even counter humans. Let our Soul Beast clan once again become the hegemon of Douluo Continent. After listening quietly to the black-clad man's story, the silver dragon in mid-air suddenly spoke up, Emperor Tian, you are too naive. The sound is clear and pleasant, and the ice cools and touches the heart. This is actually a female voice. These two are undoubtedly the black-eyed golden dragon king, Emperor Tian, who holds the title of beast god and has 800,000 years of cultivation, as well as the silver dragon king, one of the clones of dragon god. Upon hearing the words of the Silver Dragon King, Emperor Tian, whose eyes were filled with excitement, was immediately stunned. The excitement on his face faded and he turned to look at the Silver Dragon King with confusion. You know, under the management of the Divine Realm, each small world has its own reincarnation rules. In general, each world's creatures can only reincarnate in their own world and are not allowed to turn around in other worlds. This is one of the rules of the Divine Realm. And that guy from Shura is specifically responsible for overseeing the operation of the rules in the Divine Realm. Now a soul from another world has reincarnated and arrived in the Douluo Continent world. Imagination knows that it can only be Shura, that damn guy, who is secretly planning to harm someone again. And when our Soul Beast clan falls into such a situation, Shura's contribution is indispensable. He even modified the cultivation rules of Douluo Continent in order to exterminate our Soul Beast clan. Do you think that the exposure he brought at this time will be beneficial to our Soul Beast clan? Upon hearing the explanation from the Silver Dragon King, Emperor Tian felt a chill all over and immediately understood. This exposed person is definitely the black hand set by the Shura god to further exterminate his Soul Beast clan. At the thought of this, the killing intent within the Emperor's celestial body erupted uncontrollably, and then he looked up at the Silver Dragon King, pleading, Master, please use your means to mark the identity of this exposed person after his reincarnation. I will find a way to secretly destroy him in advance and never give him a chance to grow. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. 009 Theft. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9009 Theft. Just as the entire Douluo Continent was under discussion, a new image appeared again on the screen of light. Amidst a crescent moon and starry night, a group of ancient buildings exude perseverance amidst the mountains. The mountains are stacked with white mist, everything is so dreamy, as if it is not in the human world. Between several peaks, the position seems to form a constellation of stars, surrounding the tallest and most magnificent peak in the center, as if guarding it at the same time. On the highest cliff of the central peak, the 4 characters Shu Mountain Tang Gate are carved between the peaks. There are several iron chains connecting them, and this is the only passage between the peaks. And below this iron chain road, there is a vague and misty valley that cannot be seen at a glance. If it falls, there is absolutely no chance of survival. On top of each mountain peak, there are patches of houses and buildings. Although the layout of the buildings in the middle of the mountain is not exquisite and the style is grand, as a place of residence, there is no problem at this moment. In front of the iron chain bridge on a certain mountain peak, a person dressed in black night clothes wrapped his whole body tightly. Only a pair of young people's eyes exposed in black suddenly appeared. Without any hesitation, quickly jumped onto the iron chain bridge and ran towards the central mountain peak. The figure moved around, even as if there were illusions appearing one after another. The target is a majestic attic on the central peak. At this moment, when the black-clothed man and the attic appeared together on the Tianbang screen, the Tianbang screen enthusiastically introduced the black-clothed man and the attic with text, marking them as Tang San as an adult and Tangmen Scripture Pavilion. Collects all important cultivation techniques and hidden weapon manufacturing methods of Tangmen. If disciples want to cultivate, they need to exchange their sect contribution points. At the moment of seeing the final text annotation, everyone's hearts couldn't help but murmur to themselves, this guy named Tang San is not trying to steal the cultivation techniques of the sect, is he? No way, right? Anyway, this guy named Tang San was saved and raised by the people of this Tang sect. Shouldn't he choose to repay the Tang sect like this? People can't, at least they shouldn't retaliate like this, right? Shrek Academy, Dai Mubai and others glanced uncontrollably at Tang San, their expressions becoming somewhat subtle. Especially Ning Rongrong, who spoke from the sect, now looked at Tang San with a somewhat guarded gaze. Meanwhile, they have also confirmed that this new exposure is their new classmate, Tang San. After all, they saw it with their own eyes yesterday. The body method of Tang San in the picture is exactly the same as that of the classmate beside them. It seems to be called the ghost and shadow walk. Tang San naturally noticed these gazes, but at this moment he had already understood everything. Tang San did not pay attention to the gazes of his companions. He believed that when everyone looked at all the memories of his past life, they would definitely identify with him. I'm not wrong. Only the truly inexperienced little dance still couldn't understand what Tang San was doing in the picture, instead cheering with surprise on her face, look, this is the ghost shadow step, it's the third person's unique step. I knew that the exposed person this time was the third party. Just as everyone was murmuring in their hearts, the explanatory text on the screen slowly disappeared, and the screen continued to play. In between, Tang San in black quietly entered the central peak without any information, skillfully avoiding various pitfalls and patrolling disciples along the way. Finally, he arrived at the shadow of the outer wall of the Sutra Pavilion, avoiding the on-duty disciples on duty. He arrived at a door on the top floor of the Sutra Pavilion, took out a wire, silently opened the door, and rushed in an instant. On the top floor of the Sutra Pavilion, there are 9 wooden frames placed against the surrounding walls, each of which is filled with bamboo slips. The screen flashed by, revealing the names on several bamboo slips, complete collection of poison materials, Tangmen poison technique, advanced hidden weapon techniques. In the picture, Tang San in black sneaked in without even looking at the bamboo slips on the wooden frames around him. Instead, he skillfully walked to the center of the attic, in front of a counter specially made of white jade. What caught the eye was only a book placed in the center of the jade platform, with the big characters, Xiantian Baolu, written on the cover. At the moment he saw this secret book, Tang San in black, his exposed eyes filled with excitement and he shouted softly, the Xiantian treasure record. It is indeed the highest martial arts secret book of the Tang sect, and only inner disciples are qualified to practice it. Finally, I have found it. As he spoke, Tang San in black reached out and picked up the secret script of Xiantian treasure record. He opened it directly to take a look. Internal mind skill. Xiantian skill. The light body technique. Ghost shadow and mist. The method of practicing hands. Xuanyu hands. The method of practicing eyes. Purple extreme magic eyes. The method of capturing. Controlling cranes and capturing dragons. The art of hidden weapons. 100 solutions to hidden weapons. Ha ha ha. Indeed, it is true. According to legend, the ghost shadow mistake step, practiced by our disciples outside the Tang sect is one of the true highest treasures of the Tang sect. This is the true highest treasure of the Tang sect. Xiantian treasure record. Excited to quickly read the secret script, Tang San in black directly opened the last secret weapons chapter, and looked at the directory, Buddha angers Tang Lian, Guanin tears, rainstorm pear flower needle, Yen Wang Tai. Looking at the hidden weapons that almost existed in legends and the detailed manufacturing methods on the Baijia, Tang's eyes were almost filled with excitement. It wasn't until he had thoroughly flipped through them all that Tang put Xiantian Baolu into his chest clothes, and then carefully flipped through the door again to escape. The picture gradually fades away from here compared to the discussion at the end of the last scene. This time the whole continent despises the waves of cursing and swearing. White-eyed wolf. A real white-eyed wolf. This guy named Tang San is simply a villain. Ha! Just now I guessed that this guy might be stealing something from the sect, but before he did, he went straight to steal the highest treasure of the Tang sect. Old Tang Lon really shouldn't have saved this traitor from the middle sect. That's right. From the explanation on the Heavenly Way list, it's clear that those so-called cultivation techniques require disciples to make sufficient contributions to the sect in order to learn, and Tang San chose to steal directly, which is truly despicable. This has been exposed. I hope this guy's reincarnation can hide his identity, otherwise no major force in the world would dare to accept such a person to join. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. 010 Haotian Sect. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 010 Haotian Sect. At this moment, inside the hall of Haotian Sect, looking at the scene just now, the 7 most irritable elders in the Haotian Sect, Liang Douluo, opened his mouth and cursed loudly, "Bah! Scumbags! It's just embarrassing us surnamed Tang. Fortunately, there is no such ungrateful white-eyed wolf in our sect. Otherwise, even if he is an exposed person and has unparalleled talent, I would have personally killed him. This kind of selfish and self-serving white-eyed wolf who repays kindness will eventually be the second disaster star for a sect." On the first seat in the main hall, Tang Xiao, one of the former Haotian twin stars and now the leader of the Haotian sect, listened to the 7 elders pointing fingers and cursing locusts. His face was extremely embarrassed, but he couldn't say anything. After all, the son of Elder 7 died in the battle with the Martial Soul Hall that year. The direct factors that caused that battle were his younger brother, the first disaster star mentioned by Elder 7, Tang Hao, and the woman named Ayan in his memory. As soon as Tang Xiao thought about his Haoti's current misery and the forced sacrifice of the gentle and watery woman in his memory, his hatred towards the Martial Soul Hall grew even more intense. I wish I could immediately take out the Haotian hammer and smash the Martial Soul Hall into pieces. On the second row of seats, the second elder with white beard and hair, and an extremely elderly face, glanced at Tang Xiao's gloomy face at the top and knew that Tang Xiao's anger was rising. He randomly turned his head to look at the 7th elder, gesturing for him to shut up before speaking. Regarding the handling of Tang San, a new exposed person, I believe that if he is a disciple within the sect, as long as he is willing to voluntarily hand over the secret script from Xiantian Baolu to the sect in the future, the sect will still forgive him for all his past life experiences and will not allow other disciples to use this matter to talk about things. After all, this is all a matter of the past life. Of course, it has nothing to do with this life. But if he conceals and doesn't report it, and if he is discovered in the future, it is enough to show that this person is no different from his previous life. So don't blame the sect's subordinates for being merciless. As for him, if he is not a disciple of our Haotian sect, then if we encounter him, we can invite him to the sect as a guest. Master, what do you think? Speaking, the second elder turned his gaze to Tang Xiao on the head seat. Tang Xiao looked at the other elders below with an approving expression, pondered for a moment, and nodded in agreement with the suggestion of the second elder. After all, the advice given by the second elder is almost the best solution. As for the 2 elders' final words of inviting guests to the sect, how to invite them and how to be guests after being invited, everyone tacitly did not mention it. At this moment, other major forces on the Douluo Continent are also making similar arrangements, either openly or secretly starting to deploy and arrange. Moreover, the scale is enormous compared to any time in the past 11 years. After all, almost all major forces have been determined, and the person who exposed this time is definitely someone from another world in their past life. And the cultivation methods of other worlds are definitely the biggest treasure in this world. Leaving aside everything else, let's just focus on the ghost shadow and mistake step used by Tang San in black during his infiltration into the scripture building in the picture. This skill is highly coveted even by those with the title of Douluo Chang, as they only need to confirm it at a glance. That kind of step can definitely enhance their actual combat strength. Not to mention, ghost shadow and mist is just a small part of Xiantian Baolu. If we could obtain the entire Xiantian treasure record, it would be possible to build another martial soul hall on Douluo Continent. After today, the whole mainland may become lively because of this exposed person named Tang San. Colin City, Kassel College, within the second class of freshmen, TSK. This Tang San is too despicable, isn't he? That's it. It's just trash. A white-eyed wolf who repays kindness with revenge. Shameless to the extreme. Listening to these classmates' friendly evaluations of Tang San, Yubai's mood was very calm, and he even wanted to laugh a bit. Young people are young people, with a strong sense of justice in their hearts. They don't want those dirty adults. Now their minds are definitely focused on how to find Tang San and ask about the content of Xiantian Baolu. Although I also want to be a part of Xiantian Baolu. But unfortunately, there is a father with the title Douluo guarding them. How about exposing Tang San's information? As his thoughts flipped, Yubai's eyes narrowed slightly. At this moment, the voice of little Pang Dunsher arguing and cursing came from beside him, gone. This guy named Tang San is really disgusting. I was told by the young master that this kind of white-eyed wolf villain who repays kindness has now been reborn. He should also be grateful that when the heavenly list was exposed, it revealed his past life appearance. Only people who knew each other in the past life can recognize his current life appearance. Otherwise, if I find him, I must punch him out of his feces, then hit him in the feces, and finally use his feces to hit him. How could there be such a disgusting guy in this world, really? With a slanted eye, Yubai glanced at the chubby guy next to him who was eating dried meat, but kept scolding others for being disgusting. Yubai's eyes widened in silence, and he then curiously said, Pang Dun, don't you want to get that Xiantian treasure record? Think. Upon hearing Yubai's inquiry, little Pang Dun Shizheng looked at Yubai strangely and said, just looking at those ghostly and elusive steps, Fat Master, with his sexy fat all over me, was about to fly with envy, let alone other cultivation secrets in Xiantian Baolu. As he spoke, Xia Pangdan looked at Yubai's expression and instantly understood what Yubai wanted to express. He calmly waved his chubby hand and said, I want to return to what I want, but if Fat Lord and Tang San were in the same situation in their previous lives, wouldn't there be no way to obtain the Xiantian Baodian for cultivation? As long as I obtain enough sect points, that's enough. Or to put it another way, even without the Xiantian Baolu, Fat Master would still contribute to the sect in order to repay the sect's life. Instead of living without telling and taking without informing like Tang San did, isn't this a thief? And it's also a family thief. Tang San is now grateful or praying that when the Tianbang comes to an end, there will be no one around him. Otherwise, at the latest tomorrow, he will be invited to drink soup by those powerful forces. Listening to little fatty Dun Shizheng's words, Yubai was stunned for a moment, then smiled and patted Shizheng's shoulder. Ignoring Shizheng's confusion, he looked at his own gaze and said, I believe you. Then he refocused his attention on the light screen in his mind. At the same time, I secretly thought to myself, moreover, Tang San was not easily invited to drink Mengpa soup. After all, Tang Hao's hammer is not so easy to pick up. End of this chapter.